Let's welcome in the managing editor for the Daily Signal, Tyler O'Neill. Tyler, thanks for coming back to the Leventhal Report. This is pretty darn interesting, I have to say. The Trump administration still refusing to cooperate with the judge's order by not giving up more information. They have until tomorrow morning, I'm told, to submit a sworn statement about whether to invoke the state's secret privilege to withhold information if disclosing it would harm national security. So, as far as you know, what happens next, and how will this case affect Trump's efforts to deport more migrant gang members in the future?
Yeah, I think we are all waiting with bated breath to see what happens next. I think it's very important to note the organization that filed this lawsuit, the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, they're one of the main forces that was pushing the Biden administration to open the border in the first place. My book, The Woketopus, The Dark Money Cabal Manipulating the Federal Government, explains how the ACLU got one of its staff involved with the DHS turnover at the Biden transition, and then that the ACLU was demanding that essentially the Biden administration treat the Department of Homeland Security as a welcome mat for illegal aliens rather than a law enforcement apparatus. So it is no surprise that the ACLU is fighting tooth and nail against Trump on immigration issues.
Well, Judge Boasberg says the administration faces consequences if his orders are violated, while the administration insists his spoken order wasn't enforceable. Ultimately, what type of consequences could we actually see here?
Yeah, the court could try to hold, Boasberg could try to hold President Trump and the administration in contempt of court. I think it's going to be very interesting to see. There is a legitimate constitutional crisis here, and it's not the one we're hearing from the left. What we have here is a system of activist groups that handpick areas where they can file these lawsuits. They essentially are handpicking these judges who then are taking it upon themselves to stop federal policy. Now, of course, there are levels to which a temporary injunction is a very useful tool to prevent real harm to plaintiffs in the middle of a case. This is an important use. The problem is these judges are taking that rightful authority that they have to issue a temporary injunction for the two parties in the case and applying it broadly to the entire country in a way that effectively makes them the policymakers and pushes President Trump out of his rightful authority as head of the executive branch.
Yeah, that definitely seems like something that needs to be fixed, this whole judge shopping situation. Congressional Republicans are teeing up articles of impeachment for Judge Boasberg for abusing his power in levying the emergency pause. Do you think, well, never mind whether he can or can't be impeached, because it doesn't look like they have the numbers, but do you think he deserves to be impeached?
Yeah, this is a very interesting question. I mean, I think what we have to do, and this is why I was really unhappy with Chief Justice John Roberts, who finally decided, we have this constitutional crisis going on. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court comes out and makes a statement, and rather than addressing the way that we essentially have these activist groups that are engaged in a lawless judicial coup against the President of the United States, rather than responding to that, he chides President Trump about the Boasberg situation and says we should never engage in judicial impeachment. Judicial impeachment is a political question, and this isn't the Congress would not be saying that Boasberg violated the law. The Congress would be saying that in the view of the Congress, he was not living up to what's called good behavior. This is the term that the founders used to describe what usually ends up being a lifelong appointment. They say they shall serve during good behavior. Well, the Congress has the authority to impeach someone. So yes, I don't know whether Congress has the votes to impeach Judge Boasberg. Unfortunately, it should not be reaching that point, because it should be the case that the Supreme Court steps in and says, look, these injunctions are too much. They're going too fast. They're going too far. The presumption needs to not be that these judges can stop the president's actions, but that the president's actions last until they are proven in court to be illegal.